Welcome back to Anastasia Chorna's show. You guessed it right, I am Anastasia Chorna. And today, we're going to be talking about something so not exciting. Taxes. Are you guys ready for it? This is a conversation that we have to have. Yeah, let's get into it. If you are anything like me, you probably put off having to deal with taxes and the tax filing season as much as possible. It's a very much of an ordeal and, well, nobody likes it. Let's face it. But it has to be done. If you work in this country, then you have got to make sure that your taxes are filed because IRS will be after you. Before we get started, I want to make sure that you guys know that I'm not a professional in this field. However, the beauty of this country is that you can do your own taxes. And there's so many tools that are out there for you to go through this as successful as possible. And because I have a lot of experience in that and I have been doing my taxes for years and years and years, this year is going to be the 6th year that I am filing taxes, my own taxes, by myself. So I feel like I have this whole system down to the T. And I just want to, share my experience, and I want to help you out with preparing you for what's to come. Especially if you are very much new into it and you feel like you can do this, but you just want a little bit of a guidance. I'm here to help you out with this. If you have been working for a company that provides full-time employment and you have been paying taxes the whole year, you might be thinking, well, why do I need to do this? I don't need to file my taxes. And I beg to differ. Because here's the thing. A lot of times, if you do not have any tax liability from previous years, you don't own a house, you don't own any kind of real estate property, chances are IRS has deducted a little too much money from your paychecks and you might be entitled for a return. And this is the best part about doing taxes in this country. A lot of times, you get money back. And tell you what, in 2012, this is how I bought my first car. With the money I got back through the tax return. And if it's done correctly, you can buy yourself a 2001 Toyota Solara. Yeah! Just to give you a bit of a breakdown, a bit of information, there are two different things that happen throughout the year with your jobs. Pretty much you can have a couple of different types of employment. You can be working for somebody full or part-time, and you receive a pay stub every 2 weeks or once a month. On that pay stub, you can see that taxes have been taken out of your paycheck, and that's written on the pay stub. It's whether it's just the federal taxes or state plus federal taxes, because not every single state in this country has a state tax. For instance, in Texas or in Washington, you don't pay any state taxes, which is an awesome bonus, but there's downside to that, but we're not going to get into that. So that would pretty much mean that you are working on a W-4 form, and at the end of the year, you will receive your W-2. That W-2 form will have a basic breakdown of how much you made in the whole year, how much taxes have been taken out of your pay stub overall, and then some basic information about your employer for tax purposes. The second type, a very important type of employment, is being self-employed. And that means that pretty much you are not hired full-time with any particular company, but instead you are working as a private contractor, being contracted by different types of companies who then pay you on the terms of the contract which you pretty much signed when you started working for them. Any kind of contractor work will most likely provide you a self-employment type of a status where the taxes are not taken out of your paycheck that the company pays you, so you are pretty much responsible for that. just like a W-2 form, which a company would send you with all the breakdown, at the end of the year, like I said, you will receive a 1099. It will have a basic information about the company for tax purposes with like a tax identification number. It will have the amount of money that they paid you in a year. If there were any deductions, sometimes there would be a certain type of a deduction, not necessarily taxes, but something which varies from 1099 to 1099, just because the taxes were not taken out of your paycheck and from what company paid you doesn't mean you do not have to pay it. You're still responsible for that, and it's very, very important that you do pay those taxes and you file those taxes. Otherwise, you might be fined by IRS if you are missing the deadline. This year, the deadline has been shifted until May 17th. And there's different ways that you can go about filing your taxes. There's different companies. You can go to a private CPA who can help file the taxes for you, that you pay the fee to. You can go to companies that usually pop up in different places on the block somewhere that do file the taxes for you. Again, you pay the fee, the person does all the filing for you. You don't really have to do anything. They know what to do, and that's it. It's very easy. I actually, the first 5 years that I was filing taxes in America, I would go to a grocery store in my neighborhood. It was called Fiesta in Houston, Texas, where this company would set up tables, like a station, where they would bring the CPAs from their company to work specifically there and file the taxes inside a grocery store. It's not a scam, guys, if you see those. Those are most likely people who are professionally trained to file the taxes for you. And if you have a W-2, it is so easy. You do not have to do pretty much anything. You can also go through companies that are well known, such as H&R Block or TurboTax. You can either go into the office or you can file it online. Also, if you're making under $75,000 of gross adjusted income, you are eligible to file your taxes for free through a IRS website. I'll put the link down below so you can follow that. Maybe that is something that's very helpful. Or you can just file those taxes online through, again, H&R Block or any other company that is helping you out. The one that I have been using for 6 years now is TurboTax. Personally, I really love TurboTax because it is so self-explanatory. They pretty much hold your hand through every single step of this whole process. It's very, very easy. They also have people who are there for you in case you have a question that is not explained on the page. But every single page that you go through has explanations, it has links to answering the question, the descriptions, and it actually tells you what you're supposed to put in a particular field on the page that you are on right now. But if it's not clear to you 100%, they have people that you can contact that will reach out to you right away, and you can ask that question to them and they will help you out through whatever the step that you feel like you're stuck in. If you strongly believe in yourself and you feel like you can file your own taxes by yourself, it's very doable. It's very possible to do that, especially if you're using something that is as helpful as TurboTax. It is not a sponsored video by TurboTax. This is just something I have been using for a while now, and I just recommend it to everybody. If you are one of the people who received W-2 form at the end of the year or in the beginning of this year, your process will be very much easy. And the only thing that you really need is your W-2 forms. So if you are planning to file your own taxes through, let's say, TurboTax, you just create an account if you haven't done that before, and you just walk through the steps. And then you select standard deductions, and boom, you're done. And in that case, you will probably get your money back. I cannot guarantee anything because I don't know your situation, but this is how easy it has been filing those taxes with a W-2 form for me personally. I also do my parents' taxes, and when they only worked W-2 jobs, that's how it was. It was as easy as that. Now, when we're talking about deductions, it's to give you a little bit of a breakdown of what deductions are. It is the money that you spend on your job-related expenses throughout the year. So, for instance, if you drive a lot, that can be a deduction. If you have to buy your own uniform, that can be a deduction. If you had to take some classes and get some kind of a degree or something, that can be a deduction. Anything that is job related can be deducted out of the taxes that you own. So unless you have a huge amount of expenses, which you probably won't if you're working a W-2 job, then what you can do, you can either do itemized deductions where you go through the expenses that you had throughout the year. It's a lot of work, and we'll get to it in a second, and you itemize it and you enter all of that into the deduction section when you are filing your own taxes. Or the second option, if you had a W-2 job and then you don't really have that extensive, huge expenses, you can select standard deductions. Standard deductions is pretty much an estimate that IRS has depending on the amount of money that you made in a year. It's really helpful because you do not need to spend days and days on making calculations and counting your expenses and figuring out what works, what doesn't, what counts, what doesn't, because you can just select that. It would be standard and it would apply to the amount of money that you made, and that it would probably add some money into your pocket at the end of the day when you're done with the process, which is a good news for somebody who barely spent any money on job-related expenses, because you can still select standard deductions. You will have received the 1099 if you sign the form W-9 versus the W-4 form when you started working for whatever company that you are working for. And that company is supposed to send you the 1099. If you haven't received that, you gotta reach out to that company, to the HR or whoever is in charge of making sure that those tax documents get to you, and request that as soon as possible, because you only have about 3 weeks left to file your taxes without the penalty. Once you have received all of your 1099 forms, make sure you have all of them handy, because you will need to enter the information from all of your 1099s into the forms whenever, for instance, TurboTax is asking you to do that. Expenses that you had throughout the year for whatever it is, but it is job related, are important. They do add up, and they make sure that you are not paying too much in taxes, because you have already invested a lot of money, a lot of your own money, and the government actually allows you to take those expenses out, because you're contributing into the economy when you have your own business, so they want to give you a bit of a tax break. If you haven't been using credit cards or debit cards to pay for your expenses, for your job-related expenses, and you have only been paying with cash, then you can still use those expenses. However, you need to make sure that you have saved the receipts. So if you don't save your receipts, I do not recommend using the money that you spend on whatever job-related expenses that you have, because if IRS was to ask you for proof that you actually had those expenses and you don't have the receipts, you don't have the statements, you don't have the bank statements that reflect the actual expense that you had, then you might get in trouble with IRS and get audited. If you have that ready and you have your 1099s ready, then you're pretty much ready to sit down with your computer and start going through the process. Well, this is it, guys. This is about all I had for you today. Just remember that as hard as this might sound, it is still possible for you to do your own taxes. And if I can do my own taxes, that means that you can do it too. That is it. If you have any questions, feel free to comment in the comment section below. Let me know if I can help you guys out with something. If not, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like if there was something that you learned, if it was at all helpful to you. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video.